What's up, everyone? Welcome to SEO and Content Conversations. I'm your host, Will Martin, and this is a weekly show where I dive into whatever I want to in terms of SEO and content marketing, whatever's trending, whatever's hot to talk about, and that's what we're going to talk about. So today, before we get into the topic for today, I just wanted to let everyone know that my SEO Academy is out there. It's been hopping this month. We have a brand new course that just came out for keyword research. We'll walk you through how to do keyword research for pretty much free, which is a really cool thing because a lot of those tools cost a lot of money. But I know for a lot of you guys who are business owners who don't have this massive budget for SEO and you want to learn how to do it yourself and kind of get some framework to build your SEO strategy, you're needing some of those more affordable tools. So I go through that in my latest keyword research course. You can get all that information at heyitswil.com. And talking through my academy and the SEO 101 course. It's also there. You can purchase those as a bundle, or if you join the pro tier of my academy, you get access to those courses included with that. So all the courses that I have now, all the future courses, as long as you're a member, you'll have access to those without having to pay on top of that. So there's my plug for my website, for my SEO Academy. But what we're going to dive into today, and what I've really been thinking through as we enter into 2021 and we enter into a new year. I mean, SEO is always changing. It's always evolving. But one of the questions that I always get is, what are the trends? What are the things I need to look out for? So on the last episode of this podcast, I talked about 3 trends for 2020, for 2021 to really pay attention to. I talked about streamlining your user experience, making your mobile site as fast as possible. That's going to be super important in 2021. I talked about optimizing for user intent. So along with that keyword research that I just mentioned through that course, part of that is learning how to adjust your keyword strategy for user intent. That's going to be even more important in 2021. And then using video content. I mean, video content is already most people's preferred form of content out there. So it's just one of those things. If you haven't started video content yet, you need to get going on it because people love to consume video. So those were my kind of 3 trends to look out for in 2021 for SEO and content marketing. But today I'm going to dive into my latest blog post that you can read over at heyitswil.com, and it is the top factors for SEO in 2021. So one of the things that people, I think, that scares people, so to speak, about SEO is there's so many factors, there's so many different facets, little nuances of optimizing your website or your social channel for search engines. And so part of that is just not really knowing which factors matter, which ones used to matter, but they don't matter anymore, which ones matter that are new that we haven't really optimized for in the past. And so just being aware of those shifts and those changes. So what I wanted to do is put together a list specifically targeted to beginners, but really for anyone who has a working knowledge of SEO and you have a website or a blog or a social channel or a YouTube channel or a Pinterest account or anything, to let you know what factors I, as an SEO professional, am focused on in 2021. So these are the things that you need to be evaluating to assess the health of your SEO strategy, your content strategy, so to speak. So I'm going to dive into these, and as always, all of these can be broken down into 3 main categories. And you hear me talk about this a lot, but on-page SEO, off-page SEO, and technical SEO. Now, that's the most simple terms that I could think to boil it down to, just to make it approachable and digestible for everybody. Some places will only use 2 sections. They'll just say on-page and off-page, and they'll kind of lump technical in. But what I've found is that technical SEO can really be a standalone thing because there's so many even little nuances to just the technical side of SEO that it really needs to be its own pillar. of SEO. So I break that out separately and have those 3 sections because it makes it easier to monitor those separately. It makes it easier to identify, which pillar of SEO that you need to focus on more for your website and adjusting, where you need to put your focus for your strategy development. And so here's what I did for this list. Again, you can go to heyitswil.com. You can look at this in text form. You can save it, copy, paste it, do whatever you want with it just to keep as a reference. But I wanted to lay out a simple but pretty, robust list of SEO factors that you need to be paying attention to. And for the blog, I just listed them out. I didn't give a lot of explanation. I'll probably go into some explanations, here and there in the coming weeks and days. But I wanted to hop on here because it's easy for me to just talk through some of these and just give some brief insights on each of these. So there's 30 factors total on this list, 10 factors for each of the 3 pillars of SEO. And I'm just going to talk through some of those. And if you guys are joining me live, feel free to ask questions. Hey, what's up, Brian? I see you in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. But if you guys are happen to join live, that's awesome. I mainly do this for my audio podcast channel, but I do, when I record this, I do throw it up on YouTube, Facebook. I'm even on Instagram live over here on my phone. So yeah, we're all over the place. But if you have any questions as I'm going, you want any clarity, feel free to chime in and I can address that. But let's start with on-page SEO factors. So this is typically the first place that people start because it's on your page and there's the most, implications when you're looking at your website for your SEO, because this has to do with things that you can see, things that you can control that happen on your website. So here's the top 10 factors for on-page SEO. And I'll kind of give brief explanations as I walk through these. But the first one is your metadata. And I harp on this a lot. And there's a reason. It's because it's important. It's because it's the first thing that search engines look at when they are trying to determine the purpose of a web page. And so your metadata refers to your title tag, your meta description, and your H1 headers. And these 3 things kind of work together to inform the search engine what the content on that page is primarily about. And that's obviously going to fuel into your search rankings. So that's where you want to put your keywords right there in your metadata. You want to make sure you use natural language. You want to make sure that that is optimized for the things you want to rank for. But your metadata is number 1. The actual words on your page is number 2. So this is the copy that appears on your website. You've got blurbs of text, you've got paragraphs, you've got information in text form. If you have a blog post, that's the text of your blog. That factors into on-page SEO. And then kind of springboarding off of that, number 3 is your readability. So not just the words on the page, but have you crafted it in a way that is approachable? It's readable to people. This is one of the reasons why keyword stuffing is not a thing anymore, because it was just not readable. And so if search engines are smart enough nowadays, it's kind of scary, but they're smart enough to actually read the copy on your page and be able to determine if it's readable or not. And, if it's not readable, if it doesn't make sense from a natural language standpoint, then you're not going to get a lot of SEO value from that. So the words on your page and the readability is number 3. Number 4 is your images, image size. Are they high enough definition where it creates a great user experience, stuff like that. So your images factor into your on-page SEO. Along with your images, number 5 is the alt text on your images. Now, I've talked about this a lot in the last month, but alt text is primarily for accessibility for people who are vision impaired. And they might be listening to your website through a screen reader, but having alt text present in all your images that is accurate, it's concise, and if possible, includes your keywords. You don't need to force them, but that's going to be important for your on-page SEO. Number 6 is the user experience. So this is kind of an overall thing. You think about the user experience. What happens when someone comes to your website? Is it easy to, see things? Are the colors, distracting? Just the overall user experience. Is it pleasant? Because it's not a huge SEO factor, but it does factor into your SEO, and that's an on-page SEO factor. Number 7 is your navigation. kind of 7 and 8 go together, but it's your navigation and your site structure. So your primary navigation at the top of your page, does it make sense? Does it flow well? Or is it taking people to important pages that is going to give them information that's going to help them out? So your navigation, your site structure. Number 9 is the actual URL. So the web address, does it make sense? Or is it just a string of letters and numbers? Customizing that URL for SEO means putting those keywords and even locations, if you're worried about local SEO, into your URL. And then the last one is ADA compliance. And I've gone through several different tools that you can use to check your ADA compliance. But ADA compliance refers to the accessibility of your website. How accessible is it to people that have disabilities or various impairments? Because we want the web to be an inclusive space. Again, it's the same reason why that you have handicap parking spaces, you've got wheelchair ramps at businesses. The web, as many people that use the web as they do nowadays, it's got to be accessible to everybody. So these are going to be big on-page SEO factors. So again, your metadata, the words on the page, your readability, your images, your alt text, the overall user experience, navigation and site structure, your URLs, and ADA compliance. So that is really the 10 key factors for on-page SEO that you need to pay attention to and make sure that you've optimized those things on your site for search. So let's move into off-page SEO. So off-page, we just talked about on-page SEO. Off-page SEO are things that happen off of your website, obviously. It's very accurately named. But these are things that you might not necessarily have control over, but they're not things that are like visible on your website. They're things that are outside factors that impact your SEO. So let me walk through those. The first one is going to be the age of your domain. And this is something that a battle I'm actually fighting right now, because I launched my current website, heyitswil.com. I launched it in November. And so the age of my domain is very low. I have a very young website. And one of the struggles with that is it takes time to build authority. It takes time to build backlinks. It takes time to really establish yourself on the web. So I'm kind of starting from square one, but it's been a great experience for me because I've been able to take a lot of the things that I teach you guys, a lot of the things that I talk about for SEO and for launching different channels, and apply those things and see some growth. So in my academy, I'm actually doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I've been filming it for a little bit and I'll be posting it on there, but just actually looking at the performance of my website, showing what I'm doing to help grow the authority of my website, to help get more traffic to it, to help optimize it for all of these things that we're talking about. But your age of your domain is going to be one of the primary off-page SEO factors. And, that's something that you can't control in terms of like, you can't speed up time, right? So you can purchase your domain, you can launch your website, but you don't control time. So you just kind of have to wait that one out. But age of your domain is a factor. Number 2 is your authority. And your authority is going to be factored by pretty much everything on this list. But your overall authority is an off-page SEO factor that's going to really determine your rankability overall. Number 3 is engagement. So when people come to your site, do they engage, or do they sit there and they look and they say nope and then they bounce off? Engagement is it's considered off-page SEO because, again, it's not something that you can control, but it's something that does factor into your SEO. So you want to create websites that entice people to stay on them, that entice people to interact with your content. This is why we talk a lot about internal linking strategies. We talk about, shaping your content in a way that takes people on a journey. So it's not just like an online brochure, it's an actual journey. You've got your homepage, and then where do you want them to go? And it's just a very strategic plan for your content online. And then number 4 is internal linking, which I just mentioned. But internal linking, do you have an internal linking structure that makes sense? Are the most important pages on your site linked to the most? Is every page accessible, within 3 clicks? If not, it would pretty much be considered buried because people's attention spans just aren't there in 2021, and they're not going to click 10 times through your page to get to a piece of content. So, creating an internal linking structure that makes things accessible, that takes people on that journey, keeps them on your site, enhances that engagement. But then on the flip side of that is external linking, number 5. And this is links to other websites besides your own, but that are authoritative. External linking is one of those debates in the SEO world because it seems counterintuitive because, as I said, you want to keep people on your site. But external links take people off your site, right? So here's the mentality behind external linking. The mentality is you want to connect yourself with authoritative sources. So you want to you want to make sure, first of all of your external links are to authoritative sources. It's not to a spammy site. It's not to, just some podunk site that was set up that you found really quickly. External links especially should not be an afterthought. You should plan those. You should research those. You should make sure that you're linking to high quality, high authority sources of information. But there's several things that you can do to make sure that those external links are optimized, making sure that their authority is high. Also, you can set it to open in a new window so the people don't actually leave your site, but it pops up in a new window, and that kind of thing. But you do want to make sure that you utilize external linking to affect your SEO. Number 6 is your Google My Business listing. This is especially important for local SEO. You want to make sure your Google My Business is set up, first of all, that you've set it up. But then you want to make sure it's optimized, not just for your location, but also for what you do. So the keywords that you want to rank for, the industry that you're in, how are your competitors set up? You want to be competitive with them and make sure that you're ranking along with them. Your Google My Business listing is an off-page factor that is going to impact your SEO. And there's different facets of that I'll talk about in a minute that are going to impact your SEO as well. Number 7 is social media sharing. So how much is your content shared across social media? Blog posts, videos, your homepage, different service lines, things like that, your product listings. How often are they shared across social media? Now, this is another part of SEO where there's a lot of conversation and probably a lot of disagreement. For me personally, in my experience, I have seen an increase in authority and I've seen an increase in rankings when we've launched into social sharing campaigns with clients. So I've been able in the past to tie a direct correlation to that. So there might not be a measurable thing where it's like if you get X amount of shares on Facebook, your authority goes up a point. It's nothing like that. It's not like a direct link, but it just increases the overall authority and SEO health of your site. If you can really get those social shares, if you can have social interaction, if you can have that social media presence, because again, Google is savvy enough to know that your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your Pinterest account, that all of that is linked to your website. And the more active and the more authoritative you are, even in those spaces, the more that it can boost your SEO. So social sharing and social media in general. Number 8 kind of ties into social media and the Google My Business listing, but customer reviews and ratings. A lot of people don't think about this. This might be something that you overlook, but your ratings on like a Google My Business can impact your SEO, positive or negative. I've had a client in the past that had very, very bad ratings and comments on Google My Business. And it was an uphill battle with their SEO. And we had to come up with some creative strategies to kind of overshadow that. Now, of course, first I was like, well, maybe you should take care of your customers first and foremost. And so that's part of it. But when it comes to SEO and your presence in the online space, you do need to monitor those customer reviews. And if there's issues that you need to fix them, ask that person to change or remove their negative review and kind of handle it that way, because it can have an impact on actually your website's SEO. Number 9 and number 10 are together, but it's backlink volume. So the number of backlinks that you have. And then number 10 is the backlink quality. So when it comes to backlinks, it's not about quality over quantity or quantity over quality. It's about both and. You need to have as many backlinks as you can, and they need to be as high quality as possible. And when I say high quality, I mean backlinks from sources that have at least decent authority scores. Authority score comparable or better than your website's authority score, so that you can get some of that link equity from them, because that's pretty much how backlinking works on the internet. The example I always give is it's like high school, where if like the cool kids know who you are, like you're cool, right? So if the cool kids on the internet know your website and they link to you, then Google thinks you're cool. And that's just how it works. So the more of that you can have, so the higher the number of backlinks and the higher the authority of those backlinks, the better off you're going to be for your off-page SEO and your website authority as a whole. So that's the top 10 factors for off-page SEO. And then lastly is the top factors in 2021 for technical SEO. So technical SEO is the fun one that everyone loves talking about because it's super nerdy and it, talks through coding and scripts and this and that. But I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible for everyone. Now, if you run into something with technical SEO, my advice, here's my disclaimer here, is reach out to somebody. You can reach out to me, or you can get on Fiverr and find a web developer or somebody that knows coding. Don't jump in there and try to fix technical issues yourself unless you're really sure that you know what's going on and how to fix it. And that doesn't mean just watching like a 5-minute YouTube video. So that's my disclaimer, because I don't want any of you guys to start looking into any of this and then break your whole website and it really negatively impact your business. So contact a professional when it comes to some of this technical SEO stuff, rather than always trying to fix it yourself. But the top 10 factors for technical SEO in 2021, number 1 is paramount, and that is your page load speed. How quickly does your website load? And specifically your mobile website, because I've seen it fluctuate, where somebody said, oh, my page is super fast. I've got, my page loads very quickly. And when I ran a page speed test on it, yeah, their desktop site did, but their mobile site was super slow. So really focus on your mobile site, which is actually number 2, is mobile friendliness, but that's even more than just your mobile page speed. But when it comes to page speed, do focus on and monitor the load time of your mobile site, because that is going to factor heavily into your SEO in 2021. And that'll take us into number 2, which is overall mobile friendliness. So there's a couple of things that are important to know about mobile friendliness in 2021. So back in 2016, Google made it known that they were going to begin shifting to mobile first indexing. So we've all heard about this for the last 4 or 5 years, mobile first indexing. And what that means is that when Google indexes your website, they're going to index your mobile site. So every page on your website, they're indexing it as a mobile device, meaning that if you have certain elements hidden from your mobile site, or if there are extra things present there, or if the layout's different, the load speed is different, you've got different plugins or anything like that, that's the version that's going to be taken into account when they index your site. So that's what they're going to look at. And when they're deciding who to rank for what, that's going to be paramount, that you make sure that your mobile site is optimized for high level performance on the internet, because that's what Google's going to look at. And the full transition, so starting back in July of 2019, every new website was indexed mobile first, but it's taken them a couple of years. But now by March 2021, I think was the last announcement, by March of this year, every website across the internet will be indexed mobile first. So that's important to note. So make sure you are paying close attention to your mobile site and optimizing that. The third one is JavaScript. This is where it like gets in the weeds. If you have JavaScript errors, if you have plugins that are outdated, if you have JavaScript that's either slowing your site down or it's broken and it's causing your pages not to be indexed, that's a major technical factor that you need to get worked out. Again, don't try to go into the code and do it yourself. Hire a professional, message me, and I can, if it's not something that I can directly go in and do, I can put you in touch with developers or somebody that can help you with that. But you do want to keep a handle on your JavaScript performance, making sure that it's optimized and that it's not stopping Google from crawling your site, which is a major problem that I've seen in the past. People have had pages that weren't indexed, and come to find out, it wasn't, because the page wasn't good. It was because there was JavaScript on the page that was stopping the Googlebot from crawling that page. And so we had to go in and fix that JavaScript, and then we fixed the indexing issue. But JavaScript is important for SEO, for technical SEO. Number 4 is your security. Talk about this a lot too. We've all probably tried to go to a website before on Chrome or whatever browser you use, and you get a big red X and it says, this site is not secure, take me back to safety. And that's having to do with security on the server side of your website. This is HTTPS. If you see that in the website address versus just HTTP, HTTPS is what you want. That's a secure website. And so if your website is an HTTP website, there's a chance that not only is it getting blocked by some browsers and depending on the security settings on the individual's computers or devices, but there's a chance it might not be being indexed because Google sees that as an insecure site and it doesn't trust it as much as it does sites that are secure. So make sure that your site's secure. And that is taken care of in 2021, which leads into number 5, which is crawlability. So all the things I just mentioned really factor into crawlability, which is basically just a word that means, is Google able to crawl your site? Or are there things that are broken that are stopping Google from crawling your site? If they can't crawl your site, they're not going to index your site. If they don't index your site, you're not going to rank for anything, which is the opposite of SEO. So make sure that your site is crawlable. All the things I just mentioned are taken care of so that there's no boundaries for the Googlebot, and that your site can be crawled and indexed and then ranked for search based on your target audience and what you want to rank for. Number 6 is an XML sitemap, and this is essentially a text file document that lives on your server that helps guide the search engine to know which pages to crawl. It's essentially a list of URLs that says, hey, these are the pages that are important in order, and these are the pages that I want you to crawl, Google, and that I want you to index for search. This is really helpful for making sure that Google, number 1, finds all the pages that you want crawled, and number 2, that it ascribes the right amount of authority internally to each page. So obviously you want your homepage ranking number 1, and then following that, you might have different pages that you want. You may want a blog post to be the second most important page. You might have a specific service line that you want to be considered, just under your homepage as the most important facet of your website. So a sitemap is a great place to establish that priority. And it doesn't guarantee that that's how they're going to rank, but it does push search engines in the right direction. So it's really smart to have an XML sitemap. There's a ton of different free XML sitemap generators out there. If you just Google XML sitemap generator, and you can go in, create that file, customize it yourself, and then upload that to your server. It's going to be different based on what platform you're on, but that's the gist of XML sitemaps. Number 7 is similar, but it's a robots.txt file. And this is another text file that essentially informs search engines even further what pages, not to crawl, what pages to crawl, that kind of stuff. So it's another layer of just guidance for search engines. But if there's specific pages, like if you've got a section on your website that you do not want to rank, like it's a members only section, or it's something that's for a specific audience and it's ranking, or if there's like, certain category pages on your blog that you don't want ranking, you can note that in the robots.txt file, and that will help stop search engines from even crawling that page. So there's no chance that it'll be indexed. Number 8 is schema markup. Or really just any kind of markup. So markup refers to the code on the back end of your site that tells search engines and social networks, social sharing platforms, what the most important information is. So, when you go share something on Facebook and you have like that featured image, you've got a title, you've got a description. That's not always the title and meta description from Google. Sometimes it's customized. So you can actually customize that based on your platform using schema markup, using open graph markup, things like that. So that's going to be really important in 2021, especially as you make a push for people to start sharing your content more on social media so that you can boost your off-page SEO. You want to make sure that that markup is intentional, that it is built in a way that's going to encourage people to click on your website. And so you want to make sure that that's in place. Number 9 is redirect loops. Keeping tabs on how many redirects you've got going on. I've jumped in on a few different websites where there was just several redirect loops happening, where it was like there were 2 and 3 redirects for one URL, and that's going to slow down the user experience. And it also creates a lot of confusion for search, for web crawlers too, Google bots, things like that. So you want to make sure that you minimize those redirect loops. And it's great to have redirects. It's a great tool to use to, make sure you don't lose backlinks, or if you change a URL and you want to make sure you don't lose that traffic. Redirects are really helpful for that, but you do want to keep tabs on that to make sure you don't have multiple redirects happening at one time, so that you're just taking people on this little journey that they don't want to be on this roller coaster. So keep tabs on your redirect loops. And then lastly, number 10 is just the overall functionality. I mean, websites are essentially pieces of technology, and sometimes things just break. They don't function correctly. So making sure that everything on your website functions, from, images to hyperlinks to navigation menus to mobile responsiveness, just all the functionality in general, that everything is firing without a hitch. Because not only is that going to hinder the user experience if you've got parts of your website that just don't work. Like if you've got an embed or a plugin or something and it's just not working, that hinders the user experience. But it also can negatively impact your SEO, because again, when the Google bot encounters that non-functional piece of your website, it's a bad mark against you, and you want to make sure you don't have any of those bad marks. So any functionality, any plugins, any embeds, any third-party things that you have integrated into your site, making sure that those continue to function properly is a key for technical SEO as well. So there it is. I did it in 30 minutes. The top 30 factors of SEO to focus on in 2021. Thank you guys for joining me. I had some people joining on Instagram over here, which is awesome. Thank you guys for joining on Instagram. I will be here again next week with a new fresh topic. But if you have questions about any of the things that I just covered, feel free to, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment below. If you are watching this on IGTV or whatever platform, Facebook, drop a comment, and I will for sure come back and check on those and answer them next week. And if you were listening to the audio version of this podcast, feel free to shoot me an email at heyitswil@gmail.com and ask me any questions. You can also go to my website, heyitswil.com. There's a contact form there. And I've also got a couple things you can do. You can get a free SEO scan emailed to you within a few minutes through my website. You can sign up for a free consultation if you want to chat with me about possibly working with me for SEO, or you can check out my SEO Academy, as I mentioned earlier, which is a space that I've created with both a free community and a paid tier where you get access to all my courses and exclusive tutorials every week. But there is a free community there of content creators and digital marketers, bloggers, things like that, of people that just want to network and hang out together. And And I have a good announcement. Hopefully in the next couple of days, I'm going to be on Clubhouse. So I've been hearing all about Clubhouse, and I don't know if you guys are on there yet, but I finally tracked down a Apple device because I don't have an iPhone, but I have found an extra one somewhere, and I will be setting that up and getting on Clubhouse. So I don't really know a lot about that and how that works, but if you guys are on there, let me know. Let me know what I need to be doing, who I need to be hanging out with, talking to, and I'm excited to get that up and going. It sounds like it's a really cool space to hang out and talk about marketing. So look for me on Clubhouse. I'll drop something on social media when I'm officially on there, but I'd love to connect with you guys on there as well. Awesome. So thanks for tuning in this week to SEO and Content Conversations. Again, my name is Will Martin. You can find me online at heyitswil.com. If you go there, you can connect with me on all my social platforms. And yeah, thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you guys next week.